Hi, it's your Backwards Bookworm, Mr. Boomsma, here today to read to you a story that's also a poem. And that's not unusual. Certainly very often poems are stories, and stories are told in rhyme or in poetic form. This happens to be a really kind of favorite Christmas story poem of mine, and it's really ironic that we are doing this today, December 23rd, because this poem, this story, was first published on this very day, December 23rd, in 1823. If you want to do the math, that's almost 200 years ago. So imagine that somebody wrote this and published this almost 200 years ago. And it's also kind of interesting that the guy who wrote it didn't kind of like say who he was. He published it what we would call anonymously, meaning nobody knew who wrote it. And it was originally written and published as the title was, or the name was, The Visit. And it wasn't till like 7 years later that people found out who actually wrote it. So if you kind of haven't guessed yet, the poem is actually "'Twas the night," or my tongue got in the way there. The poem actually is "The Night Before Christmas." A lot of people call it "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." And that's because that's how the poem starts. "'Twas the night before Christmas, when all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. The stockings were hung by the chimney with care, in hopes that St. Nicholas soon would be there. The children were all nestled snug in their beds, while visions of sugar plums danced in their heads. And Mama in her kerchief and I in my cap had just settled our brains for a long winter's nap, when out on the roof there arose such a clatter, I sprang from my bed to see what was the matter. Away to the window I flew like a flash, tore open the shutter and threw up the sash. The moon on the breast of the new fallen snow gave the luster of midday to objects below. When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a miniature sleigh and 8 tiny reindeer, with a little old driver so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be Saint Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now Dasher, now Dancer, now Prancer and Vixen, on Comet, on Cupid, Donder and Blitzen, to the top of the porch, to the top of the wall, now dash away, dash away, dash away all. As dry leaves that before the wild hurricane fly, when they meet with an obstacle mount to the sky, so up to the housetop the coursers they flew, with the sleigh full of toys, and St. Nicholas too. And then, in a twinkling, I heard on the roof the prancing and pawing of each little hoof. As I drew in my hand and was turning around, down the chimney St. Nicholas came with a bound. He was dressed all in fur from his head to his foot, and his clothes were all tarnished with ashes and soot. A bundle of toys he had flung on his back, and he looked like a peddler just opening his pack. His eyes, how they twinkled, his dimples, how merry. His cheeks were like roses, his nose like a cherry. His droll little mouth was drawn up like a bow, and the beard of his chin was as white as the snow. The stump of a pipe he held tight in his teeth, and the smoke, It encircled his head like a wreath. He had a broad face and a round little belly that shook when he laughed, like a bowl full of jelly. He was chubby and plump, a right jolly old elf, and I laughed when I saw him, in spite of myself. A wink of his eye and a twist of his head soon gave me to know I had nothing to dread. He spoke not a word, but went straight to his work and filled all the stockings, then turned with a jerk, and laying a finger aside of his nose and giving a nod, up the chimney he rose. He sprang to his sleigh, to his team gave a whistle, and away they all flew like the down of a thistle. But I heard him exclaim, ere he drove out of sight, "Happy Christmas to all, and to all a good night." Isn't that a great story? And again, 200 years, almost 200 years ago it was written. So I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope that maybe while you're nestled snug in your bed, you may also hear the prances of those little hoofs on your roof, and that you will have a happy Christmas to all of you and all of yours, and a very good night. Thanks for being here and joining in the night before Christmas.